Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of SEO Fight Club. I'm just saying hello in the YouTube chat and letting you know we are watching there for questions. So feel free to ask and we'll try to get to them as we can. Today, we are going to look at some field observations and just kind of talk about, kind of the crazy stuff that we're seeing and crazy stuff that works. And today, more than most episodes, I'm not saying that any of these things are good ideas. In fact, I think a lot of them are bad ideas. But just the fact that they work and they happen is really interesting and is probably worth, some discussion. And so that's kind of what we're doing with these episodes is we're just looking at Google search today and just pointing out some oddities. So Lee, what do you think of this topic?
I'm a big fan of outliers, Ted. So I always enjoy seeing what other people are doing to see that it works, how it works, sort of reverse engineering and learning how to use it safely if possible.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be a few test-worthy things in this episode. I wasn't expecting to find a lot, and at the end of my effort into looking for things, I was like, I'm stopping it here. I got too much. So got a decent sized list. But with that, Carolyn, what's going on with the podcast?
This week, I think I'm going to talk about when helping hurts.
So what does that mean?
That was a poignant silence. Just things that sometimes clients like to help the SEO, and but they're really not in a position to know if it helps or hurts. And so it's just kind of providing some cautionary tales, just things that people have shared with me, stuff that I've experienced, and just talking about how if you think you're going to help, maybe the first person to call might be your SEO or your marketing person.
Does this touch at all on the ever constant conflict of you have data and I have beliefs, and because I'm paying the money, I win?
That's a good one too. I was just thinking people who, one of the examples is somebody had a long-term SEO client and they moved the business and they didn't tell the SEO. But then they were complaining to the SEO why their phone stopped ringing. And what they'd done is they went in and just changed their GMB, thinking that's all they had to do.
Yeah. So the shooting yourself in the foot effect.
Yeah. That, if you're trying to do things because you're thinking, well, I don't want to pay somebody else to do it, or I'm paying them to do this, without really seeing the connection between the two actions. So,
well, that sounds like a good episode.
Oh, thanks. I hope so.
I highly recommend you check out our podcast. It airs every Friday in the morning. You can search for it by name. You'll find it in the rankings. It's on every podcast platform, so you can pick your favorite platform and find it. So definitely check it out if you're looking for more SEO content to consume. Clint, what's happening with SEO this week?
What's up? Oh, no episode this week. Kind of took a break and focused on some other things, but we'll put some videos on the channel for everybody in the next day or two. Kind of redoing some things that messed up when I was doing some live demonstrations of rank gear. You know how live goes. So
yep.
I'm going to record them this time, try to get it right.
And what's going on with SIA? It's like there's this big rebranding thing happening. What's that all about?
Yeah, we're moving out of the SEO intelligence agency and going over to SEO Intel. We're redoing all of the course sections, etc., kind of putting all of that information overload that we got going on over there into something that's easily digestible and actionable, so that not only will you get the what to do, you'll get the how to do it, the test results, and all that stuff all thrown into one unified system now. So it's going to be exciting. Looking forward to getting it all done.
All right. Well, let us know how that progresses.
Yep, definitely.
All right. So with that, we're going to jump right into my field observations. So the first thing I noticed when I started looking, I put in the calibration keyword I always use, DUI lawyer Los Angeles. And the first thing I noticed is that the .it spam network of websites is back. And this thing covers thousands of domains, and they have the same redirect content deliverables. And the crazy thing about this network is they're kind of like in all keywords. Like I find it everywhere. And it was recently in the news is the untitled bug in Google. It actually wasn't a bug in Google. It was a bug in their network that made all of the websites have the title untitled. And so I thought that was remarkable. And Google came down on them and just filtered, like they all got purged. And it's like the whole network is back, just 2-3 weeks later. It's like Google has no defense for this. It's killing me to see it. And I don't really care that they're doing black hat. Like I think that what they're doing is, it's just a technique, it's not evil. It's just this happens to work type of thing. The part that I conflict with it is that they're doing it so well, and they're taking up so much of the low quality entries in the primary index that it's actually pushing all of our testing out of the primary index. It's making life very, very difficult for SEO testing, and we're having to adapt our strategies. And so even though Google, purged these people from the system just a couple weeks ago, they're back in force 2 weeks later. So it's incredible. I'm just beside myself how powerless Google is to this type of thing, and just how big it's gotten. And we'll continue to watch it. I mean, it's really interesting to see what they do. But it came back in no time. Lee, you've been looking at these types of websites. They're kind of hard to unsee once you learn to spot them, aren't they?
Yeah, and I actually love what they're doing because it's very instructive, especially for folks that believe that Google reads and evaluates good content. If you've ever read one of these cobbled together monstrosities, you realize that maybe it's not about that if you're open to looking at it, but it's a very, very impressive network, and with a little tweaking it could be used a lot of different ways, some of which aren't very nice. So it's always worth keeping an eye on them.
When it hit the press, I was trying to convince Bill Hartzer that this was actually a spam network and not just, low quality websites that I was imagining. So I went and found some that were ranking for Bill Hartzer SEO. He was a little bit shocked by that. But yeah, these networks, they can sometimes reach to as much as 10 or 15% of the whole Google primary index. And it's just massive in scale. And it starts to make me wonder, well, what could you do if you controlled 10 to 15% of Google's primary index? And that starts to trigger my tinfoil paranoia. But maybe somebody at Google should actually care about spam a little bit more than they are. Just putting that out there, Google, maybe you could do a little better than you're doing. Next thing I noticed was that you don't need to have SSL to rank. Like you can rank on page 1, page 2 with unencrypted pages still. So there's a belief out there that, oh no, you must, but there are examples of not necessarily. And so, largely everyone is encrypted, but I think that's more of a cultural choice than a hard rule. What do you think about this one, Clint?
Yeah, I think that we've had this discussion before, and it was really Google just trying to dictate HTTPS to everyone and saying this is the new standard. The people that didn't bite, clearly there's Weebly.com. I think that would be significant, right?
Yeah.
Kind of just proved that it may have been a ranking factor, the carrot that Google dangled to everybody, but it wasn't a ranking factor very long. And now it was just a ploy, I guess it were, to get you to switch over to HTTPS, which would have been a pain for a lot of people had they not also made it free. So because it's free, it's kind of a you should do it kind of thing now, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason you want to do it is so that in the web browser you don't get the scary, unsecure warnings in the URL bar. So, anymore, it's a trust signal for human beings visiting your website, but it doesn't seem to be a powerful thing in the algorithm. Is what we're pointing out. I still think you want to do it just because you want human beings to feel like they're in a safe space when they visit your website. But if you're doing it to rank better, that's not necessarily how it works. So I searched for Seattle plumber, and I saw this one where they got Seattle plumber is their anchor text. And I was like, wow, that's remarkable. They got no branding and, what's going on? Did Google rewrite it at all? So I went and looked, and this is what Google rewrote it to. I mean, how crazy is that? You've been looking at title rewriting, Clint. What do you think of this one?
I got a new tinfoil hat theory about all of this is the PPC, right? The main money generator, Google, was still not getting enough revenue for whoever, their investors, their board, whatever. So they're, will squeeze every little penny they can out of their product, which is the search results. So, and SEOs were getting really, really good at CTR. We were writing better titles. We were, getting better CTR rates. So they fixed the search results by turning on this machine learning monster that spits out this junk that, there's a prime example right there. And it reduces the organic CTR rates. And then now they have to compete.
That's a brilliant theory, is if we're drawing too much traffic, if we're winning the clicks, we're taking away from their bottom line.
Yep.
So they took away the CRO. Ouch.
I mean, if you use the argument, oh, we're creating better search results for people, how is this better? And obviously we could all go through the search results and find some really, really crappy examples to prove our own points. But still, this is, I'm sure we could duplicate this right now. I haven't tried it, but and see that type of title where it's just not helpful whatsoever.
Yeah. I thought this was, I expected to find their title to be Seattle plumber. Like I expected Google to say, okay, I'll give you what you're asking for. But then when I found out that Google rewrote it to that, I was like, What the heck is going on here? That's incredible. I find that incredible. It's like they took their brand and threw it out, you know, and that's contrary to quality, right? That's contrary to accountability. It's contrary to just about everything you would find in the Google guidelines.
Yep.
And I'm shocked by that. And it might be a fluke somehow, but I mean, the fact that it's possible means you need to look for it.
You know, going along with what Clint was saying, if you look at their revenue Q3 and Q4 last year, specifically in paid search, it's the biggest moneymaker for them. I mean, we know it is, but I'm just saying, like, it's enormous.
Yeah, they keep growing it by billions year over year, and that's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
This title I thought was amazing. And I was like, okay, let's go check it out. And it turns out it was the .it network I started with. They're in Seattle Plum. They're everywhere. But this, I didn't get to see it. It went through a crazy redirect chain and got me to their really dangerous payload. Don't go exploring the .it network. Some of what we found in that process is malware installations and lots of notification type spam. Don't do it. And if you are going to do it anyway, make sure your antivirus is on and up to date and scan regularly.
Do you were you able to find the version that they're showing to Google?
We did do some of that research, and what we found is that a lot of what they're doing is hidden by the user agent, so you won't necessarily see their linking unless you show up as Googlebot.
Yeah.
And more we're finding stuff like that is harder to do because Google's now publishing their IPs, so they can hide better that way. And Cloudflare has an ability to verify the Google IPs and block people who are pretending to be Googlebot. So we might find that there's more resistance to checking now.
Have you, like, the first domain you showed, I looked and Google isn't showing the cached version of it. Have you checked? Is that consistent across the board as you guys have gone through these?
I haven't done a deep study lately. It was very consistent back when we looked in depth a few months ago.
Yeah.
But I haven't checked lately. I haven't done a study since they came back in force, since the Google purge.
Yeah.
So I did another continuation, and I found this one, and this one was just weird. It was, I don't even know why this page even ranked as in the title. The fact that you can have a title of JR is just weird. I just thought this one is odd. I can't even explain it. It's ranking for Seattle plumber. This is obviously the name of a plumber in Seattle, but this web page has like nothing to do with this keyword. And this title, I just don't get it. Like, what's Google's algorithm doing? This should have been a candidate for rewriting, right? Even if they had, crazy content, like, why would Google rewrite Clint's titles but let JR go through? It's just, I don't get it. So I'm going to call that one a fluke and keep going, but that's possible in today's search. This one I thought was cool because everybody's like, you got to have a short domain. Well, this website ranked page 1 or so for a very difficult keyword, one of those health related terms that Google is super paranoid about. And look at that domain name, man. That's a 99-cent domain on any day. So that's possible. Lee, what do you think about domain names and having them be ridiculously long?
I think the danger is if you're trying to get your keyword here, as long as Google can parse it out, I'm less opposed to a lengthy one. But the longer it is, the more chances are that they're going to look at this as Euro, Pianfa, Masut, Eichel review or something like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Is it a website about car parts or carp arts?
mhm.
Where you break the words can have meaning.
Right.
But yeah, so if you've been told that you absolutely must have a short domain, the Google rankings would say it doesn't, exclude these. They're not common, but it can work. This is a common sense one. A lot of people know this, but you can rank for things you don't have. You could create pages for products you don't carry, rank for them, and offer alternatives and simply schema them out of stock, even though you've never had them and you never plan to have them. You can totally black hat your way into a large keyword net of all the things you don't carry in your store. All you got to do is say it's out of stock. Technically, you can do it. It works.
And would that really be black hat? Nothing
Yeah.
stopping you from ranking. You're just ranking.
Yeah, it's. I'd
That's
say
like
it's
Ford
great.
dealer. A Ford dealer writing about Toyotas. He's never going to sell Toyotas, but he'll write about them and talk crap about them and rank for them.
Oops. Go back there. Yeah, it's just another observation of something that works. Like Google will let your pages continue to rank strongly even when they're out of stock. And it was so much of an issue that when I was in online retail, I actually had custom development done to the store to 410 our out of stock pages, because we would have like 50 products that all would target like sterling silver amethyst bracelet, because we had so many different sterling silver amethyst bracelets that I always wanted in stock product to be getting clicks in search. And so we did the 410 trick to drop these to make sure that the next one in line would show up in search. And that was when we figured out that keyword cannibalization isn't always bad. In online retail, it's a good thing because it allows you to efficiently sell product. And it got even cooler when we found out that the fulfillment center for the business was running out of shelf space in the warehouse. We changed the mode so that we were always 410ing the stuff that we were deep in, but let the stuff that's nearly sold out index. And then we found out that we could use SEO to efficiently clear shelf space in the fulfillment center. And it's that whole, taking SEO to another level, another dimension of, solving problems. But technically, if you can see the problem set that way, you can do lots of crazy things with SEO in terms of like a, big organization.
Thought about that 410 tip the other day. John Mueller was asked about out of stock products, and he told people that 404 or no index their pages. And to To me, that sounded like it would be a bad idea.
Yeah, 404 is incredibly slow. So you will still rank for weeks, if not months, on the 404. So the 410 takes you out in a matter of days. And what we found is that when we brought things back in stock, if you eliminate the 410, you get rediscovered and included rather quickly as well. So yeah, we used the 410 approach to great effect for years. But most store platforms don't do that out of the box. So Shopify and Magento and all these other WooCommerce, they don't do that out of the box. You have to do custom development to do that. And so that puts it out of reach of a lot of businesses. So here we have the keyword Xbox wireless headset. And so we have people reviewing products as critics and people reviewing products with aggregate ratings. So critic reviews still work. And so if I was in online retail, I would try to have editorial critic reviews of everything important to me, so I have another chance of getting my stars. In addition to the aggregate rating, why not have 2 rolls of the dice to get your stars? And what's really crazy, and I see this a lot with the aggregate rating, is the 5-star rating, 1 review. You know, to be an aggregate, don't you need multiple reviews? The fact that 1 review of 5 stars works seems like an exploit. And I see it so much when I search the results. I think it's being exploited. I mean, why not? You don't need 500 reviews. You need 1. You know, that's minimum viable SEO right there. And the CRO on those stars for e-com is so high, you need 1 review and Google will let it through. What do you think of that, Lee?
You know, I always like it when you can make minor changes that have big impact. And I think this is one of them. I think it'd be interesting. I mean, we all know that the stars make a difference, but in your experience, how much of a difference did the presence of the stars make in terms of?
Oh, it's huge. It's the single biggest CRO thing you can do in the search results for a product page. It's absolutely massive.
So if you got them, would you get 10% more clicks? 20?
Oh,
What's the?
For some products, like it turns your number 4 ranking into the highest clicked link.
Nice.
So the impact of the stars is important, especially when people, you know, they worry that what they're shopping for is junky, and then they see the stars and they're like, okay, this must be the good one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you know, when you're playing in the ballpark of $40 average carts, these stars are a very big deal. Now, if you're selling $20,000, you know, patio sets, the stars aren't going to be the thing that closes the sale. But when you're selling a $15 trinket, the stars matter. You can rank your site search pages. Like, this is allowable. Big businesses do it. You can surface search results to Google as content, and this is apparently okay to do. What do you think of this one, Clint?
I like that. I just wonder how a regular small business would take advantage of that outside of an e-com thing, like, you know, small business selling their 10, 15 products. But I like that you can do that.
Now, I know, Lee, you've tested this in the past. Do you want to share anything, or is that confidential?
I can tell you that if you have a large enough website, this works very, very well. If you've got a tiny little blog or something like that, the search results pages tend to return largely duplicate content, and so they get axed fairly quickly.
Yeah, your search needs to create unique content, so the result set needs to have a critical mass to really pop.
Right.
So, all right, popular products widget. So this is not organic results. This is probably governed by different algorithms. But I just had to chuckle when I saw a 2 review 1-star rating in the popular products carousel. It's like, how do they define popular? So this can happen. Thought it was just funny. So yeah, this one I stared at and I couldn't quite figure out why it was piquing my interest. It's like, okay, it ranked for a keyword, it mentions a keyword. It's got the out of stock thing, but we've already seen that. The thing about this one is that this is an unrelated product. So it's an off-topic product to the search term, but it ships with it. It's like, this is a promotional thing. So it's an off-topic offer, but will lightly touch on the topic in a very superficial way and will rank. This could have been a blog post that is, this makeup and skincare keyword, plus a cool Minecraft meme. You can conjoin off-topic things with on-topic things to get in front of traffic. And that's kind of what this did, is that this got in front of pink ribbon bracelet people with their skincare product offer. Now, they didn't do it well because they're out of stock and they're not going to make any money. But the fact that you can do this, that you can get an offer in front of a keyword and the offer doesn't have to be related to the keyword, that works. And I thought that was interesting. What do you think of that? Any thoughts?
As I was listening to that, I was going through this and going, what could I conjoin something I wanted to sell with something that has high traffic volume?
And maybe targeted traffic as well. Yeah, so this was interesting to me that worked in an algorithmic keyword-based way. And we normally say that you want your keywords to be very closely related to the primary thing you rank for. This technically is kind of evidence to the contrary. So if you wanted to argue against those past statements, this is one direction you could go to argue against that idea. So yeah, if you've seen my past presentations of my past work and how I used to dominate all of page 1 and half of page 2 for 50,000 keywords, that still works. This is all one business exploiting multiple domains to dominate search.
Thought my screen was broken for a minute.
Yeah. I don't want to out the work, but if you saw those presentations on how I dominate all of page 1, that stuff still works today. And I haven't touched it for 8 years, so I left it alone and it's still working 8 years later. Okay, so I'm searching for a brand of fishing lure here. And this result I thought was really interesting because Google let it have no description. And it's like, okay, so they don't have it. I'm going to guess it's empty. They don't have it, and Google gave them what they're asking for. No, Google rewrote it to be nothing.
Is there a no snippet anywhere on the page?
No, I didn't see one. And they're ranking for keywords, but it's just really interesting that Google rewrote it to nothing.
Yeah.
And then also for this keyword, there's a lot of examples for this one for 5-star ratings, 1 review happening all over the place. So this really looks more and more like the way to exploit stars now, is just get 1 review on everything.
I think they created that themselves when they got rid of the critic review schema.
Yep. So this is the new exploit. Enjoy. So again, looking at stuff, we have all caps. There is a time when all caps was frowned upon, but all caps is back. It's allowable. Google doesn't seem to care. So if you want to scream at the traffic, you can. That's an option. I don't know if it's a great option, but it does stand out more, I guess. Yeah, if I was going to make something all caps in this, it would be like free shipping, and then I'd do the rest normal. I'd call out the reason to click, or, free shipping, today only. I'd try to all caps the thing that's going to be the FOMO. This I thought was really cool, is that normally you can't get away with putting emojis in your meta description. But if Google picks the text, they will happily allow the emoji in the text they pick. So if you see Google is picking text from your page, like the super soft and comfortable premium plush emoji pillow, maybe go to the start of that text and put a little green check mark, the one that's famous for looking like a trust indicator. Who knows? Maybe you can get those CRO, emojis that help pop and stand out, to the traffic. So I thought that was interesting that in the text that Google picked, they allowed the emoji. And here it is on the page. So they took the list item and they put it into the meta description, and the list item had the emoji. So that's something you can do. And then this one I thought was interesting, a little bit off topic. It's a YouTube video. We know that's kind of different than the regular organic behaviors. But emojis in the YouTube title is a call out. I thought that was kind of cool. What do you think of that, Lee?
I'm loving that. It gives the a point of differentiation. It'll certainly attract the eye when you're going down through there looking at stuff. I wish they had done the emojis with lowercase text, so the emojis would stand out more. But that's just me being picky.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool CRO trick for your YouTube stuff. Then I kind of wanted to see, revisit a very old thing. How many times can you say your keyword in the title and have it appear in the search result? And so the keyword is obviously games. And here we got 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Now the number 1 had it 3 times in the title. And I just wanted to point out how many times they use it in the description. It's just cool. So it kind of looked like 4 is the most, but I like to check a handful of keywords on things like this. So I switched over to cars, and we got 4 here, 4 here, managed to get 5 here. But technically it's not exact match. These are variations because they're switching between singular and plural. So it looks like 4 exact match and 5 variations is the most I could find. But that's a lot. I'm kind of impressed by that. So that's another thing you can do. Not sure how well that works, but it doesn't appear to be punished. So probably worth more testing. What do you think, Lee?
I'm going to say no comment on the number of times you can use a keyword in a title.
Well, in the part that gets shown, we know in the ... that people go nuts. But I like to see what's getting presented and what's ranking. What are the limits within the space?
I
And
think
so-
part of it is you may have answered your own question. When you search for cars, these are some pieces you pulled up. Were they on page 1, 2, 3, 8? Sort of where did they show up?
Yeah, these were all like page 1, page 2, and then I kind of quit.
So yeah, it works.
So I searched for Seattle weather, and I saw this NOAA.gov result, and I saw this. I was like, oh, are they blocking Google somehow? I wonder what's going on there. And turns out it went through a redirect chain to a different website, and everything got lost in translation. So you can rank a redirect. That's what this shows. And that was the key component to Google bombing way back in the day. So it looks like Google bombing is potentially back on the table if you can rank redirects. So yeah, that's really interesting that worked. Now, I don't know if that's a fluke or a timing issue. I don't know how hard it is to do. But the fact that this is an example of a ranked redirect is quite interesting. What do you think of this one, Clint?
That's weird that they would do that. So
Yeah,
when you click that link, it goes through all the 2 302s and 301, or does it start at that?
yeah, this is straight out of the network pane from Chrome. This is what it did when I clicked the link.
Wow.
So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. So I bet all the black hats in the audience just perked up. So that's what I had on those observations. What do you guys think overall of the current state of Google?
Google is a great and wonderful company, and they're smart as hell. So you should just write outstanding content and not try to do all that stuff.
Clint stole my show notes. I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm not saying that any of the stuff I pointed out here is good to do. I'm just showing you that it is technically possible in the current Google today. And all the stuff I showed here is stuff that people generally say, no, Google's too smart for that. And so it's, what's old is new again, maybe. Maybe it's a different Google. Maybe they don't rely on the hard rules they set in the past, and they kind of let the AI decide more. And so this stuff can slip through the cracks now. Maybe that's it. I don't know. What do you think, Lee?
I can see at least 5 people watching in the the broadcast here that'll figure out whether this is a good idea or a bad idea over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Oh, I think most of this stuff is bad ideas and would definitely get you into a manual penalty type of thing if you exploited it hard and somebody narked on you. But the fact that this stuff is working, the fact that it's even possible, pretty much counters the argument that, you know, Google's AI is too smart for things to work. It's like, look how much, you know, slipped through the cracks today. After all of Google's updates, I pulled this stuff together last night. So Carolyn is asking in chat, so you're saying that they are better at being spam content than our test pages? That's going way back to the beginning, the spam network. Yeah, you know, our test pages are generally thin, arguably low quality. And so they kind of fight for the worst positions in the primary index. And so way down there, it, you know, results, you know, 150 to 300. That's where our test pages like to compete. Now, generally, we target keywords that no one in the universe has ever seen before, so they rank at the top, and we can see how they sort. But they're generally, in the overall index, they're kind of the worst performing content that still gets included. And so when these spam networks get in and they take up 15% of the primary index in those bottom spots, they push all of our research out of the primary index. Because the primary index, it's finite in size. It can't get bigger or Google gets slower. So it's a limited resource as to what Google's architecture can serve efficiently. And so Google has to make choices as to what's allowed in. And these spam networks have mastered the craft enough to push our SEO testing out. And I don't think that Google has like said, aha, we're cracking down on SEO testers, make their lives hell. I don't think that's necessarily what happened. What I think happened is these spam networks got better at what they're doing and all our testing fell out of the primary index. And we see that when we try to get, you know, 500 pages indexed, we get them indexed for a few hours and then we see them falling out rapidly. Well, that's because something else is coming in and pushing them out as a function of time. And so it's not Google, you know, being wise as to our page. It's that there's just so much new coming in from these spam networks, and the spam networks are trying a little harder than we are to be included. So what do you think about that, Clint? You're a tester.
I mean, it's a theory.
I
think of variable stuff. You know, you're doing the fake keywords, and that your theory wouldn't account for that.
It would, because the primary index is finite in space. It's finite in how much can be in it.
So you're saying, okay, so.
And because they're coming in with other pages for other keywords and flooding the primary index, the poorest performing stuff, I'd imagine some formula for that would fall off the end.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, and you could kind of argue that would be a target against SVTs and the single variable keyword testing, because it all kind of happened when around the same time that Dory and Kyle started promoting that they got their patent finally approved. And if you're using low volume, low searches, we don't want it in the index anymore as a measuring stick. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and it's the only explanation that I think has, you know, some evidence that yeah, this could be happening. I think there's more evidence for this argument than there is for the argument that Google is cracking down on testers. Now, I think it's entirely possible that Google can crack down on testers. But in this particular case, the way that our tests start to fail seems more like it's a symptom of what's happening in the system than somebody directly trying to very inefficiently punish us. Like they could punish us in one fell swoop and we would just be gone.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be trickle out slowly over time.
My theory was that in order to combat fake keyword tests and the effectiveness of pulling single ranking factors out with SVTs and fake keywords, was all they really had to do was give the algorithm systems dictionaries. And if you didn't meet these two conditions, one, that they're not real words in any known dictionary, and two, it's a brand new domain and brand new pages, ergo we're just not going to index these for these new keywords.
Well, that
whereas the dictionary theory kind of falls apart when we're doing it with older domains. We can rank fake keyword pages and get them indexed and ranked for fake keywords, no problem. So it's like those two conditions got to be met in order to.
The dictionary also falls apart for certain types of searches. So new popular terms that come up. Part numbers, manufacturer part numbers, ISBN codes, there are tons of things that are not words, would not be in dictionaries, but people would legitimately search. So UPC code.
I think the key point there though is that people would legitimately search.
Yep.
So you have this. I mean, if we made up a brand new part number, I think we'd be hard pressed to get that part number to rank. I mean, we'd probably get it in there, get it indexed, and it might last for a little bit, but then it'd be gone.
But new products will never be, their part numbers will never be in existing dictionaries. And so that would be the argument for the dictionary thing, is there's constantly more new things that people could search that wouldn't be in them. So it would have to, the theory would have to account for that.
Yeah.
But that's all I have. Any other topics or questions? If not, we will call that the show. So, thanks again, everyone, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks for raising more questions.
Yeah, more questions than answers.
Yeah, let's change the name of the show, man.
SEO Ponder